We are ready, we'll start.
Pardon, sir?
If we are ready, we'll start.
Yeah.
Sir, on what should sir? Send it with them. Please, well.
Like, I think that will be quite useful.
So then the other thing is also, what's section 17 I think we-
Game section. Yeah, also. Because ours is completely covered from that.
she inspired, but totally fun. So I have, one will have a round table kind of where everybody is open to talk. So I had asked Mr. Ruben to join us. So we'll have an academic viewpoint. I also asked Mr. Sarabhati to join. I was called Ravi Srinivasan. He just sent me a message. We should have done that. In fact, I met him yesterday afternoon also. So we are, so we have academic representation, we have practitioners representation. So when we say the impact of AI, AI has entered our life, whether we like it or not, in every aspect there is AI. And if you are not intelligent to use it smartly, you will be falling. So what is the kind of impact we are looking at on the as you name of the so let me introduce this is Mr. Saurabh Bharti. He's also examination in charge because semester and exam is starting. Just join us. This is Kumar from TCS and this is Dr. Reddy, senior counsel, originally from RBR, and we have others from the RBR Association. We're just about to start. So I will say, I'll request you to make the eyes. How do you think this more and more influence of AI is going to affect IT practice?
Answer in my especially I take the example of we are associates. Trademark is mentioned. We come for the trademark. Therefore, there is software by them, TF pilot. That's it. TF pilot. So already we started using data. That we give it data, what are the trademarks and also reached, what is the status of that. And on that basis, we give an opinion to the client saying that whether we can, for example, particular trademark, I take the example, the example of Picantin with the trademark I did. Picantin is of the Winmed Care company drug. And my clients want to use the Femicantin. Normally, what we say, practically I am sharing this. Now, normally, when we say our client is a small domain or small entity, very bigger companies like Cadilla or Winmed Care and so on, they got any mark which may be deceptively similar. Then we advise them not to take risk. But if my client is a big client, there's somebody who is like a very small entity, taking up the trademark which may be resembling structure, may be litigation, you can tell our client, you can go ahead, you can take a risk, you can purchase it at all, if it is all, we can take up the assignment. That's how normally we do, and this is one aspect of the trademark side, but on the patent side, we've got a lot of many such mechanisms and all those things, and they're a bit complicated. And coming to the practical side in the litigation, in the recent past, I think which court has given the judgment of the where somebody picked up the judgment and the orders are given, and in appeal, it is pointed out that those judgments are not available at all. Those are not all fake judgments. So the practically they picked up from AI, some sort of chat GPT or what.
You can start doing projects like that.
Yes. But ultimately, what the famous saying, this AI can dominate us, but ultimately AI has to be governed by us. Unless we give instructions what to do, what not to do, we are having the control over that. Some certain extent, we can take the use of that AI, information given out of AI. ultimately we have to have it there cross check, especially the practice and practical life or in any domain of life or any domain of practice. That's how I have my experience in this field.
Quality or something else.
With regard to legal, it is a more of today's center AI and legal education, and especially I don't know what is the kind of who are the right ones to say that students. Because we have got a wonderful experience on the interns, the brilliant interns we had, and of course some of the new students are also one thing, but we have got a lot of demand. We are coming in the law school and all. And students today, I don't say I'm benefiting. Especially I am benefited by those students because sometimes they overreach my the caliber of my regular advocates in my case. That's how we are getting the benefit in that way, but we do cross check on that because the research they do and all. Next, I was sharing with the sir and my office. Of course, I'm not part of this office today since I've become designated CPA. In our practice, because I worked for Indian Air Force for 18 years, there was something like when the pilots go for flying, we used to have a briefing. Now we are flying at that range and this height and all this speed, we will be attacking this and they will come back. After coming back, there is something like debriefing. We could have not done this. This is a mistake we done. How to do and what not to do. That's how we practice in our office also. When we go for a argument in the litigation, we do a lot of briefings on of things, pick up this judgment, and if the other side comes with this judgment, also be our answer. So always, one of the reasons for my success is always think from the point of other side. When he comes with this problem, then we attacking it. So that's how we have got a briefing and debriefing. That's one of the reasons today. Office is, I see, get far with this, some of the leading law firms. So we use AI for that purpose and adding our skills, and AI is extra value addition, but not, it is completely AI based.
There is some citation. It was first pointed out in the Federal Circuit Court. But there were 5 citations which the defendant filed, and the citation did not exist.
That's what I mean. Nothing. Yes.
It was alarming and it was so funny. We have practitioners here that, okay, the AI has given out a output. Is it not the duty of the the person, the lawyer, the advocate to check whether the citation exists? Because in all cases, he may be asked to submit that as exhibits. And then very soon, his company will come up with certain rules which might make all of us redundant.
That's the fear, but also is a myth also. Because as you rightly put, you get a data, but where is the reliability or the authenticity of the data? And as you rightly said, someone has to check. And that's where the human involvement and human interference come. So while there is a myth that AI would replace, it's also bringing in new areas and new quality of work. Like for example, earlier our job was to manage infrastructure of, let's say, a very large bank, large corporation. We have to troubleshoot what are the problems that infrastructure will be faced. Huge servers running into volumes and volumes of data. So to be able to predict it, we used to employ some 100, 150, 200 people whose job was to study how the performance of the infrastructure is, troubleshoot, and then give a solution and address it. It got replaced. No less than, I would say, last 2-3 years. Whereas today it is completely autonomous. You don't need people or software developers, coders, go and code a solution for them. It generates, it learns. It learns by what data that infrastructure generates. It could be performance or troubleshooting, whatever it is. And autonomously it predicts what kind of solutions it has to be rendered. And it also solves that problem. And that's a very famous product, we call it as Ignio. Completely autonomous. So that at that point of time, the question was whether it will replace those 150, 200 people used to do. But the fact of the matter is, we have a different level of people whose job is not that mundane coding and doing what they do. That is replaced by a lot of analytical capability, a lot of decision making capability. I think which is where the education and training today in our organization is focused on. Because the roles and responsibilities have changed. So the reliability and authenticity of AI generated out, especially Gen AI, like you said, kids will use for the project, but how authentic is that? How reliable is that? How do you analyze and how do you make sure that the organization doesn't face a risk? Because for us, it's a commercial organization. Anything we do, there are 100 people who watch, and there are 101 people who will want to file a case because they see the cash and they see they can be the best people to sue. So we need those decision making abilities to be able to understand the source, the ownership, the reliability. That's a different level. So there comes the myth versus reality. That's where the education and training is going towards. Not just to learn AI, but to be able to adapt and foresee the new roles and prepare the team to that level of skills. I think that's the challenge where education and training today on AI is going.
Also, Bharti, you are having a nice time with the students who are more knowledgeable to use AI than we are. The difference which I have found is that, see, when I started my research work 20 years ago, library was the only source. You had to go physically to the library.
Remember, it was called literature survey.
And it used to, for a good project for a PhD program, it used to take months to do that literature. Then came internet where it can be all done very nicely, easily. Now we have one step ahead, which can be, which is more structured. So that is definitely a big advantage to a researcher. Now, what are the apprehensions in the academic life? More and more I think is that AI is get adopted. What's your view?
This is still like we are still in this zone of uncertainty as to how far do we move in terms of committing it and what is our definition of appropriate usage of AI. Now, this is, yeah, I mean, this is not related to IP. I think we're right now discussing in a more general sense as to how AI is impacting both the practice and the teaching and learning training. So we are also internally also there are some deliberations happening as to okay, this is part of and this is now a new research tool. AI is also presented as a research tool. On one side, it's presented as something which you can use to maybe bypass the rigor of doing research and therefore has a negative connotation. But at the same time, it is also presented as a new research tool, much like began with pencil being invented first time and then things kept on moving ahead. So AI is a new. I mean, I also, for example, many times now, any term which I'm not able to understand, immediately co-pilot is available. Otherwise, you have to sort of figure out कि कहाँ पे ढूंढूं इसका मतलब, how do I find out the contextual meaning of this, etc. And co-pilot is suddenly giving you certain, answers readily available. So you do realize that this has validity and it has importance in terms of feeding into your, making your efforts more efficient and quick also in terms of what you deliver as an output. But we are still in this zone of uncertainty as to where does it become, where does it stop becoming being the honest output from your side as the answers are still, I'm not sure how to really answer that.
And I think that's going to be great for them. Also, don't tell you add that if I am one of those mischievous students who have made the entire project using tools, because we are still, unfortunately, our legal education is statute based, not practice based or Indian, which makes many of them very difficult to match up when they would actually start practice. Not practical based. So when it's statute based, projects can be easily done by people.
add one more bit of anecdote of sort. So last semester, as exam chair, I issued a circular enthusiastically, very suddenly without consulting to the students. Ki any usage of AI is found, the project will be declared to be invalid. And I had half of the university out of my office, outside my office. You define to us as to why that is inappropriate. And many of them had very legitimate arguments. They were like, okay, if I am weak in English, all the substantive research I have done myself, but in terms of its presentation, I was always at a disadvantage as against somebody who's coming from convent background, etc. But today AI is giving me that capacity to be at par with somebody else who was just ahead of me because of better English. So if I put my substantively research project through AI to improve the English part of it, you would run it through Turnitin or whatever else, and it would show 100% AI whatever. Okay, but I have done my research on my own. It's only that AI is helping me present it better. Something which maybe for societal reasons, economic reasons, I was never had that capacity. So that's another kind of question one has to confront as to.
I will just add one more. There is a student LLM student who has filed a case. Said that you were at least taking a precaution that AI tools should not be used. There was no circulation. And after submission of the project, they used some tools. Said that why it should be disqualified because you never said AI cannot be used. And same logic with the student wasn't clear. And the court had to take the side of the student. So a lot of things are happening.
They will do, sir. Gujarat High Court, not High Court, but one of the court has given a judgment. Yes, taken the output from the AI tools. But cleverly, what he has done, he has not the judgment just as it is. He has extracted and said that this is the when I put this proportion to AI given this, then underline below stated so and so type it. But my version is this answer. He has given a reasoning for that. Probably that would be the better idea.
So after using AI tool to get the output, student will go to another site, use another tool which is called humanized AI.
Finally,
What is it? There are multiple tools available which tries to make modification to the AI output text.
so what should AI use?
No, they say we humanize it.
And there is our anti-AI software who generally focus on LLM based structure of the language to find out whether this looks suspicious or not. So this extra layer to sort of change that orientation of the text so that the software is not able to.
Adding to your point, Humanize AI, that was actually a wonderful tool, sir. Even I was a part of that. But now even it has been become old age. So if you use plagiarism, it gives the website. So this person has used Humanize AI to change it. But to the advancement, in ChatGPT, if you give another tone, another style of argument, it will give you this proportion that it exactly looks like a human tone. Even if you use any tool for checking it, whether it is in AI or take it from internet, whatever you do, you cannot find it, sir. So AI tools are becoming like smarter than even you can assume.
Yes, I was asking Professor Rohit, how much, if I am that mischievous student who does all this and goes on to make the humanization out of it, to what extent can you catch?
I think, sir, I just want to first state that just a few days back, I read this article, which was talking about how there is a great lowering in critical analysis with respect to researchers and students because of the use of AI. In fact, now studies are being funded just to see the level at which such research is in fact getting over. Our ability to critically analyze things because we are so dependent on AI. So, in terms of the usage of AI, I'm actually an advocate for AI use because I feel that a lot of time which, as sir will also you underspend on say literature survey. That's time which you can reduce with the use of AI. But AI's usage should be as a facilitator. So, for example, there is an AI tool I really like. It's called Perplexity. A very good thing about Perplexity is that it gives you the sources from which it is taking them. one thing that the student can do is go to those sources and verify that information.
He's now getting the footnotes also. In this project, he's not getting the content, he's getting the footnotes also.
But I think one big thing which is to have a solid AI policy in place. Once that policy is in place, I think there is some kind of regulation, but there is no way this can be done with because it's so inherently part of everything that we do nowadays. It's part of WhatsApp, it's part of everything.
Yeah, agree with what you actually said, sir. So when coming to the practice, legal practice, so when we go through some judgments, it will be a 50-60 pages long. You don't have the entire time to go through that. So sometimes what we do is that we upload the document to ChatGPT or whatever the A we use. We ask them to give an abstract. So we get it in 2 to 3 pages. We know what is the exact case, what is the issue, what is the takeaways, and what's observation, everything. So it saves more time. So I would actually advocate for what to say.
Practice. Because I am quite, I have that. Before I argue any matter, I first file a judgment before the judge saying that other side files so many judgments, my amount filing. But it is good you to check into that every proportion of law is different. You have to think every case in different time. Now what happens when I say my colleagues are just to search for a judgment, just Google out or whatever AI, what I am very poor in that. So they pick up source, this is a paragraph. They don't read what is the judgment at all. But every judgment proportion, that point is only applicable to this. That's what I am sharing now. Just Srikanth has given the judgment on section 15. As a true professional, I found it is not. Of course, he has gone to American jurisprudence, international perspective, everything they have written, and they have decided saying that this is the law we are making on the section 15. But precisely, if you ask me, that is very bad law, even today. So that judgment may not fit into every other case. That judgment was on the rejection of plate on the 7th. Sorry, order 6, order 7 to 11, rejection of claim. But you can't fit the judgment into order 39, 190. So that's the way you have to do. You can take the benefit of AI, but again, you yourself don't. I'm sure I agree with him. You can spare the time or you can save the time, but that spare time or save time, you can at least some extent use it in finishing that.
I agree with you, sir.
On a lighter note, Indian judges make it very difficult for you to really read the judgment. First of all, hundreds of pages for no reason. And I mean, humanly, I wonder sometimes, how do they?
पहले तो पढ़ते थे, पहले तो people used.
So I'm saying in comparative sense. So, for example, if you pick up some of the American judgments or for a myriad judgment, such an important piece of, so 16 pages where the whole thing is getting. Whereas if the same case had to happen in India, I'm sure 200 pages, 200 pages would be about what this lawyer is saying, what that lawyer is saying, and 10-20 precedents unrelated to IP hotels. Administrative law we've said this about this word. So anyway, that was my turn.
But I like your way that gives you a very quick case summary.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Malikarjun, why don't you share your views on this?
Practice this the AI can use critical problems like integrating different statistics as the other point was asking about topics. There AI can play a very good role. To give you a practical example, in the villages we have a system where a bull will be left out to eat whatever it wants because it will be given to the guy.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice the god after 1 year. So AI places that AI has become a bull. It will keep out. It has a positive thing that it will keep outsiders or late time night people who walk around disciplined, but at the same time it will destroy the crop of the farmers and only so. So AI has to control from the grass. Like even it becomes more responsibility of the universities. Strong step in making students understand what is important here. Because students, when they learn it, when I give my food, I say, if I show you to all, but if I give him some thing which is really productive for him, he will follow that. So it's responsibility of the teachers as well to discipline the students in using the AI. I think when it comes to practice also, even the system has to be created in such a way that students can be allowed to use AI in everything. It makes, end of the day, it makes it lazy. Whatever makes it more comfortable makes it lazy at the same time. So I feel that AI should be controlled before it makes any big devastating things on the community. We feel, people are using. Yeah, I heard that people are using fake weapons or using AI. Going like I think it should be because it is for humanity as well. AI is good, but I thought that you have to integrate use it in. That's why
When you push it, see the road goes nowhere. It's you who walks on the road. So you will reach where you want to go. The road will stay where it is. That's a very see those who are exposed to engineering education. There is, of course, because of societal reason and financial independence, they will crave to be an engineer. Okay, now gradually, the craze to become lawyer has also started.
Yes, sir, it is seriously started.
It seriously started because
I
now
had
they
an
are.
advocate who completed his MTech aviation and joined this.
So when you look at the current engineering studies, they have introduced a module in almost every branch and the discipline of engineering, which they are calling prompt engineering. The model which is been all the top educational institutes, all the IITs and triple ITs and top universities in India have introduced that, which is now becoming more popular. Prompt engineering teaches you to write the right prompt for an AI so that you get the specific answer which you desire or which you want. Now, that means those people are also thinking in depth and will gradually, its influx in our life will go. I was surprised when, I can understand, a computer science student studying prompt engineering. I said, "See, and it has become a common model for all engineering. But the unfortunate part of engineering student in our country is that whether he is doing computer science, electronics, or mechanical or civil, they'll all join TCS.
That's the
They'll all join TCS and they'll do only one thing. It's just like coach.
that's
And they will give them a couple of weeks, a couple of months of excellent training. So TCS is it's no exception. I have seen this very closely with Infosys. I had a long tenure here. In Infosys, it is far more rigorous and at times scary.
I don't know, I did my engineering in IT, and I shifted to law. My wife will work for Infosys. So I totally agree with what you said. All because of statutory, as you have said, no practical education. 4 years of classroom knowledge, no practical. Even as a student, they will graduate, wants to do an IT job because he thinks that it's more luxurious and a little bit of training will help him get a job.
On-site advantage.
Advantage.
and another part is IT is totally becoming domain agnostic. So today, you cannot say that I will have a certain amount of specialization. You need all. Even I don't think our universities are. I think I heard that in IIT Hyderabad they have that kind of breaking the silos, where when you are working in one area, you look at biology, look at law, you look at neurosciences, and see a blend emerges. So it's very positive that a person who has studied aeronautical engineering is applying law because that's the kind of people required today in information technology area at least, because you are going to solve a problem of Boeing and they may have a compliance issue. So not only you need the dynamics of how the aerospace engineering is, you also should know the ethics, the compliance. That is immaterial. So that's why the IT is able to absorb different problems. You do a metallurgical engineering, of course, as Dr. Anindya said that earlier, it was all coding. But today that's also changing. We are not really looking at people who have coding, people who know technologies are given a better packages and allowed to enter the career streams much more than people who are just coders.
No, that because the business model is also different.
Correct.
Because all the IT companies, if you take the big five, they're not service companies. Let's admit it, they're not product companies. Okay, each of them has some products, which is primary, is actually they call the SaaS model.
Continuity, yeah.
The SaaS model is software as a service. That is what is followed. Like TCS manages the passports of the nation. Yeah, and like Infosys manages the income tax. But that's also not a product, it's a software as a service. So when being a service company, it finally goes to solving somebody else's problem, and you make money on the maintenance part of it. That's the revenue where the main revenue comes in. Where AI is really helping them to cut the time short. The developer is under tremendous time pressure. Earlier, what they used to happen is there used to be serious copyright infringement there, primarily because there used to be code contamination. Today, I, as a developer, have given some code to Professor Bharati and commercial terms. Now, a part of that code is required to give it to this project, which, as per confidentiality, I should not be passing because I'm under pressure. And that is a serious corporate infringement. And in fact, I was once doing an inquiry, but I asked a developer, why did you do it? He said, that's my core competency, I was hired for that. My manager also does. Now that's ridiculous.
What you said is true. The pressure is so much, and that is one of the reasons why so much of hype which has gone into the investment and how much the industry is actually able to scale and deliver. There's a lot of difference. That's why you see all the major stocks of people who had invested a lot in AI coming down. The reason being that, as you said, the pressure is so much, you're not really able to apply it. And one main reason is the risk factor. Because of these, they don't have proper guardrails, they don't understand the severity, and they enter into a lot of litigations, unforeseen litigation. So that is slowing down. So the positivity is now balanced, and that's where most of them are, all the Nvidias and others. Their stocks have really come down because the amount of investment they have given versus the returns. If you really see 2-3 years down the line, it didn't meet the expectation. That's a serious concern. The pressure is enormous. Earlier, we used to take 2 months, 3 months. Now, the bosses demand, now that you have tools, why don't you deliver? Why don't you go for what we then call it as microservice architecture? In a short span, in a product, you would have to release the architecture in just about 1 week, 10 days time. But where is the reliability? From where you are sourcing? What you are doing? Tomorrow, you should not end up here in that whole ball game. Bring your organization into any major risk, and that's happening. Litigations are also coming. Very, very common. There's so many litigations.
And because of it has a serious impact on the stock market, the IT companies are smart enough to most of the litigations are over. He is using ChatGPT, for example. There are 2-3 versions of ChatGPT which are commercial versions, paid versions. They work totally differently.
One point out and given output is completely different. You ask for the same proposition different.
Yes, absolutely.
It's more of accuracy, sir. So, like,
Second thing is, what is the fun there? There are organizations, I'll take the example would be, say IBM. IBM has paid ChatGPT and customized it for their internal requirement. So it's not only UI customization, inside they have variations, everything they have done. It suits their work, their business. So now, chatting will also become a SaaS. So sometime I would recommend that we can also change the paid version.
Experience leak or basically a personal assistance. So we discussed about the cases where we got some judgments which were like fabricated. But in the paid version of ChatGPTs, there are some instances where you get actual judgments which are relevant. And I have like personal experience with that.
When I spoke to them, they told me it's a filter panel. Whatever you get in the free version, you get more in the paid version and it is filtered.
Yeah, the jargons come very quickly. SaaS was software as a service. Now they call service as software. Where the service what you deliver depends on how you play around with various, these models and how you apply it. That becomes a service as a software.
So
That's a fact, sir. Adding to Dr. Sarkar's,
SaaS has gone. Now it is called SASO. And it's a very good in
Dr. Sarkar's point, there are people who have take careers as prompt engineers. There is a new course in UCLA, University of California. So they study for 6 months to 8 months only how to give prompts to any AI website. So I just study only about how to give prompt, how to get outputs. I do study about that. That's my whole career, and they're getting more paid than whatever the other professors are now getting paid. So
we are using natural language now when we give prompt. Natural language, normal keywords. Now, if that can be given in a format or in a syntax which the system understands better, definitely output will be better.
So in future, every institute would have a AI operator or AI specialist as one of the employer.
basic utilizations are.
No, that is not very far. It is who will adopt when. Nobody will be spared. You have to adopt it. Some may adopt little earlier, some will adopt it differently.
Whoever starts earlier, there are good.
It is going to be there.
As Satya Nadella said, AI won't replace lawyers, but lawyers who use AI will replace who doesn't. So it's like who use, they do better, they do smart work, they do better it is.
A lawyer. So if you have lawyer example. If you have a different audience, you replace a lawyer with some other profession. But that is not incorrect. We are reasonably confident to believe what he said. It was the same thing. I don't know those. I think many of you who are not very will not have memory of that. The younger ones. So when the adoption of computer happened in India, there was strong resistance that it will take everybody's job. But in reality, it created more jobs. In fact, I know a person very closely who was involved in the check clearing system. The national clearing cell was set up there. Now that you have present check in one name gets paid here, there, in here. So they needed a hub to do that. And they'd already partnered with IBM. This was RBI had partnered with IBM to create all that. They could not get the computers inside the office for months. People are there, the slogans, all this, that. Finally, they were also smart. They came to that office, they opened that office somewhere else, some other city, and did not, promote that, but the entire setup done. And finally, this was moved to Nagpur. I don't know. They feel it's the center of the city. The entire two things which are there in Nagpur is the processing center and the country's gold reserve also.
They're not really, let's say, creative or like music engagement section. They're not really real sense danger that real human beings want to be required for creativity. And it seems to me not very far fetched as an idea. The other day, on my daughter's birthday, my elder brother was a doctor. He wrote some lines randomly and he there. The Hindi version and the English version. Hindi version did not come out so great, but the English version was so catchy as a tune. He could using that he could act as a music composer for anybody who hires him. You may not require तो भी हमारे बाकी grades हैं.
You don't become anomalous anymore.
Yeah. So no, I'm very seriously. If I can, if having no sort of capacity to generate good music, if I can just ask AI to give me good sort of people, not be hiring many of these people. Is there not real danger in the creative that AI can be more disruptive than we be in other?
I think you're right. There is. Unfortunately, the legal community is not addressing that way. Legal community is making a noise that, owns that creation. Can that tool be a copyright holder? Can, if it comes up with an invention, can the tool become an inventor? That's what the legal community is doing. But you have a very valid point, and which will hit us much before that. That do we need?
So the reason that question would remain related to what I said would be that if let's say we speak about ownership of copyright in AI generated music, and you'll have to eventually decide this based on policy reasons. Like otherwise, AI cannot be the holder of rights, right? So policy wise, whether it makes sense or not, right? So you may say, okay, AI user has to be encouraged to create more music, and therefore AI user should be treated as the owner, default, right? Now, if you take that as a policy position, then again, my worry would be by incentivizing creation of music or literature through AI, the real human creators like Javed Akhtar or Mohammad Rafi's, etc., would those be left redundant as a matter of policy, I'm saying? Or as against this, if you say, okay, whatever is generated by AI doesn't have ownership issues, it is straight away in public domain, thereby you disincentivize at least to some extent people would use it, and therefore those people may still remain relevant. I'm loud thinking, but
Points here, according to me. First of all, it is not only ownership, that will come liability. Who will take the machine? Cannot take. We have to find somebody to take liability. Second is, I think Javed Akhtar or Sahil Udayvi or anybody you say, in future, will be competing with AI. Competing with AI.
Adding to it, I would say AI is not new to music. The early 2000s, including A.R. Rahman, the autotune is there. Autotune is nothing but AI. So it has always been there. But still, we do remember Ilayaraja.
that age was still as a tool. Now we are entering the age where it's no more a tool. Like I said, what my brother did, he had no contribution to the musical composition. And if I just play it to you, it is very beautifully, the English part is really as like Hollywood composer ne kiya.
One thought I have, this plus the earlier point, the project part. I think the fundamental point is, from where do you get this? The content is coming from what exists already. It is not originally created by that person. Okay, so, for example, even if that person is researching on a project, the output is nothing but what is already there. The content is not created by AI. The content which is already there, that's being produced. So I am drawing a parallelism between both. So suppose a student comes, allow him to write a AI-based project. You don't have to worry. When you come for evaluation, you won't emphasize on what he has written. Your evaluation must be based on his analysis. Like your Viva, your evaluation pattern must change to understand his original tool,
which made life easy to that extent that it could at least diagnose the disease condition in the patient from the all the parameters, and it will also at the same time either two domains. The legal community that okay, you just put in a proposition. Helping me my way, so it's good, or it is giving a false impression of me. or I'm taking somebody else's credit. We don't have much clarity on it. What do you say? Don't you? You're very quiet, no?
No, sir, I'm listening to you very listening. Because I will always be arguing the post. No, I put an occasion and opportunity to listen also. I may just to listen, but no, I'm listening.
What the laws have defined inventor, author is also now not really relevant for these kind of creation. Okay, so that is where we don't have an answer and don't have an answer. Because you call somebody an inventor because he has contributed and he has demonstrated what is contribution for which you have given a right and you called it a patent law. So it existed. But today that's not the case. That AI tool, whether it is his own original or it is deriving from someone, we don't know. So how do you call that?
More than that, most of the statute that said it has to be a national person.
I mean, that
Yes,
is very much
that is
clear.
very-
Yeah, very clear. But can you call such a thing an invention, an inventor? What would be that new law which will protect such IP? Which will go beyond your patent law and copyright law, which is still ambiguous.
And no country has made the law so far, I think, except European Union. I think they are coming with some.
They've come up with the guidelines. They already published a guideline.
And to the point, the UK High Commission recently has, in a case, the relevant answer they gave. They said the AI may be giving you an answer, or it may give you a product or a music or whatever it is. That doesn't mean it's a creator or not the person, but who the prompter, who gives the prompt or who gives the instruction. They have given the idea, they have given the creativity, so they become the eventual owner. And this was held in the case. But again, they given us a disclaimer that this may not be applied in all the cases.
That is an injustice to this kind of an IP because you are examining this with the way you have defined your patent law and copyright law. And in that, you are examining some invention like this where that will not fit in. So, but it's not easy, but you'll have to see what kind of law will protect such kind of an IP. Should you call it a patent law or a copyright law or something else which protects that IP is where you will just leave it up.
Not proprietary. See, you are again, then I would say that let us look at a very simple case. When I take a photograph, the camera owns nothing. As a photographer, I don't photograph.
Actually, camera is doing
Then nobody wants to add what you said. Because you are
Actually-
not alone.
The camera is doing all the trick and
Only I am clicking, that's all.
only I am clicking.
But given the place, like how to keep it, which to focus, or what are the settings, everything you are choosing it.
That is the proposition, sir.
That is what he's trying to say.
Almost like mechanically click photo also is good enough to get a copyright. So
You have to find the laws convenient to you to address that requirement. Today, it is shaking that foundation. That's where the problem is.
To answer here, you have read about the monkey case.
Yes.
monkey selfie.
One case click a photo.
In the Indonesian wildlife sanctuary. You might choose to check it out. Does the monkey own the copyright of the owns it? It's gone a long way. So these things have been uneasy. Today there's a self timer. I can put a camera anywhere and take anybody's photograph. But I'm not giving any credit to the camera. The thing is that I'll say if I use this lens, Nikon, I get a better photo.
Like it said in the Spider-Man series, the more power, the better power you get, the more responsibility. So here AI is like a superpower. With that, we also have the responsibility which we need to take care of.
Of your nature.
The other challenge that this, like whatever tools are there, like we use Canva for making posters. So there is now paid paid version of Canva. They
Like
get
asking me,
some-
shall I pay for it?
so there is something called Dream Lab. You just give me a proper prompt, and that prompt I ask ChatGPT to create. So you create prompt from that place. You give this AI that prompt, and you create this.
See, it's all engineering.
So it is kind of making us advance day by day. Even in research purpose, I wrote a paper on copyright and AI. So So it helped me to frame everything. But at the end, taking resource from WIPO to other research paper to other things, that is my mistake. But that paper I have not published it yet. Just because whenever I check plagiarism was 5%, 6% maybe. But AI tool used to be 100%. So if I submit it to any organization, first I have to humanize it. And again, I need time to humanize it because even if I use anything, if they have like most paid version of it, they'll detect it. So I have to sit and work. So this is the whole crux of our discussion. That at the end, you have to sit and analyze.
Work for the entire document, my dear. That was the simple expectations some people still continue to have.
Then she got it published in the life also.
So we are just using it.
I never cease to amaze me with all this kind of things. There's so much to learn. We will.
And as you rightly see, we have got a good team now. I need not to.
The only thing is that, Saurabh and Mohan will be very, very disturbed. They don't want students to learn more about all this.
So in the positive sense, it's okay, sir. But, any development in the law, anything development, negative and positive.
That's my answer.
Well, one thing I want to thank you for giving this book medal. Right? One reason for that I would like to say that when I was doing mine, it was an incentive for me to study hard. I missed the gold medal by a few marks, but when I started my 11th, I knew that I had a gold medal. I was 8. So I knew for a fact that many LLMs, in fact, put in more efforts in academics, maybe because of this book. So that I think.
I think here,
I want to help them academically because whenever you get a chance, all we give them the practicality, what we day in, day out, prosecution of the application.
We can plan some sessions
In litigation also, sir,
at
that
very
very
convenient time.
Why I say reason because some of the many senior advocates have filed the cases, we won the cases, being a defendant just on technicalities. Because the intricacies of the law is must. One should learn. Because I think many people highly intellectual, but they are not successful as a litigation. So what were the skills? Because commercial courts have many people doesn't know where to file, how to file. Maybe they are extraordinarily brilliant. These are some of the things jurisdiction point of view on those things we can teach them.
We really had a engaging conversation, all in a very informal manner. That's what I like.
Time to Sumo sir are all the way so busy today. They are celebrating their birthday every day in their outage. But he spare time in the morning.
I want to thank Subbu and Paul. Really indebted for the philanthropic venture. I'm sure we'll keep on meeting.
You can also take them to some of the pro bono sort of thing cases can be filed. You can support that. And also students want to practically involve in the filings also.
We will definitely interact more closely. That we actually get more meaningful outputs than we get from here.
It's a win-win situation. We get the satisfaction of teaching something to future lawyers and future judges.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. I would like all of you to please join me for lunch, which is there in the convention center. Thank you.
Dr. Anindya Sarkar's informal way of, I think that will bring in a lot of new thoughts into the discussion. Otherwise, you go in the formal structure where you get, thanks to your style of organizing this,
Thank you very
gave all the new thought.
much.